He left while I was sleeping, taking every penny we had. But the real betrayal wasn't the theft. It was the twisted secret he left behind. The morning air felt wrong. That was the first sign. Usually, I'd wake up to the smell of coffee brewing, a little ritual Mark had insisted on since we moved in together. He'd get up at 6, tiptoe around our small apartment, and have a fresh pot ready by the time my alarm went off at 6:30. But this morning, the only scent was the stale, recycled air from the AC unit. My eyes cracked open. The space beside me in bed was empty and cold, the sheets flat and undisturbed. I sat up, a knot of unease tightening in my stomach. "Mark," I called out, my voice raspy with sleep. Silence. I glanced at the clock. 7:15 a.m. I'd overslept, and he must have been in such a rush for work that he forgot the coffee. That had to be it. I pushed the unsettling feeling down, telling myself I was being ridiculous. We'd been married for 5 years, together for 8. We had a routine. We had a life. A little deviation didn't mean the sky was falling. I shuffled into the kitchen, my feet sticking slightly to the linoleum. No coffee, no note on the counter, which was his second habit. If he had to leave super early for a site visit, he'd always leave a sticky note on the fridge. "Love you, have a good day," with a goofy, smiley face. The fridge door was bare. I checked my phone. No texts, no missed calls. The knot in my stomach pulled tighter. This wasn't just a deviation, this was a complete break from the script of our lives. Still, I tried to rationalize. Maybe his phone died. Maybe his boss called him in for an emergency meeting and he just ran out the door. I decided to go about my day. I'd grab a coffee from the little shop on the corner and text him later. At the coffee shop, the friendly barista, a college kid named Chloe, smiled at me. "The usual, Sarah?" I nodded, managing a weak smile back. "Large latte, extra shot, you know it." As she worked her magic with the espresso machine, I pulled out my debit card, the joint one we used for all our daily expenses. When she turned around with my steaming cup of salvation, I tapped the card on the reader. Beep. Card declined. My cheeks flushed hot. "Oh, sorry," I stammered, fumbling in my wallet. "That's weird. Let me try it again." I tapped it once more. Beep. Declined. Chloe's smile was still there, but it was strained now, a little sympathetic. The guy in line behind me sighed audibly. Humiliation washed over me. I pulled out my personal credit card, the one I kept for emergencies, and paid. Shaking, I sat down at a small table by the window and immediately opened my banking app. I had to see what was going on. My heart hammered against my ribs as the little circle spun, loading my account information. And then I saw it. The screen glared back at me, a cruel joke in stark black and white. Checking account balance, $4.17. I blinked, thinking it had to be a glitch. I refreshed the page, $4.17. I scrolled down through the transaction history. There was my credit card payment for the coffee just moments ago, and right above it, a transaction from 3:42 a.m. A single massive withdrawal. A wire transfer, to be exact. It had drained the account of every penny, over $20,000, leaving just enough to be insulting. My breath hitched. My hands were trembling so badly I almost dropped my phone. This had to be fraud. Someone had hacked our account. Panicked, I navigated to our savings account. This was our future, our down payment for a house. We'd been meticulously saving for years, putting every spare dollar into that account. It was our dream, tangible and growing. The page loaded. My blood ran cold. High-yield savings account balance, $0.00. Another wire transfer, this one at 3:45 a.m. He'd done them back to back. The account was completely empty. Over $65,000. Gone. Everything we had. Everything we had worked for. Gone. The coffee shop blurred around me. The rationalizations, the excuses, they all evaporated, leaving a terrifying, empty truth. This wasn't a hacker. This wasn't a bank error. This was Mark. He had done this while I was sleeping peacefully in our bed. I stumbled out of the coffee shop, the latte forgotten on the table, and ran the 2 blocks home. I burst through the door, my mind screaming. I went straight to our bedroom, to the closet. His side was empty. The hangers clinked together, barren. His suits for work, his worn-out jeans, even the ugly Christmas sweater my mom had knitted him, all gone. His toiletries were missing from the bathroom. His passport wasn't in the drawer where we kept it. He hadn't just left for work. He had left. He had left me. He had taken everything. I sank onto the edge of our bed, the bed we had shared just last night, and a wave of pure, unadulterated shock washed over me, leaving me numb. My eyes drifted to my nightstand, and that's when I saw it. Tucked under my lamp was a single folded piece of paper he must have left there. It wasn't a letter. It wasn't a note of explanation. It was a receipt. A paid-in full invoice from an IVF clinic 2 towns over, dated yesterday. I stared at it, confused. We weren't trying for a baby. We had decided to wait a few more years. Then my eyes focused on the patient information printed at the top. The name on the receipt wasn't mine. Laura Peterson. The name was printed so clearly, so clinically on the invoice. Laura Peterson. It wasn't a name I recognized. Not a friend, not a colleague, not a distant cousin. The paper felt like acid in my fingers. He had taken our life savings, the money we had bled for, worked weekends for, skipped vacations for, and he had given it to Laura Peterson for a baby that wasn't ours. My numbness shattered, replaced by a white-hot rage that started in my chest and spread to my fingertips. I wasn't just a victim of a crime. I was the audience to a betrayal so profound it felt theatrical. He didn't just leave me. He orchestrated an entire second life, funded by my future, and left behind a single piece of paper as his grand finale. My fingers, still trembling, flew across my phone's screen. I typed Laura Peterson into the search bar of every social media platform I had. The first few results were dead ends. An elderly woman from Ohio, a high school student from Texas. Then on Facebook, I found her. Her profile picture was a smiling woman with bright blonde hair, her head tilted slightly, a familiar park in the background. My blood turned to ice. It was the park near Mark's office, the one he said he walked through on his lunch breaks to clear his head. I clicked on her profile. It was public. A wave of nausea hit me as I scrolled. It was like watching a movie of a life I was supposed to have, but with a different leading lady. There were pictures of her and Mark at a winery upstate. He had told me he was at a work conference that weekend. I had even packed his bag for him. There was another of them at the beach, his arm slung around her shoulder, both of them laughing, looking carefree and deeply in love. He told me he'd gone on a fishing trip with his buddies. My buddies. The comments underneath were a chorus of daggers. You two are the cutest. So happy for you both. Can't wait for the big day. Big day. What big day? My eyes scanned post after post, a timeline of our lies. His lies. For the past year, at least, he had been living a double life. Every late night at the office, every business trip, every boys' weekend was a lie. He wasn't building our future. He was building one with her. I scrolled further back, my heart a lead weight in my chest. Then I saw a photo that made me drop my phone. It was a group shot from a barbecue last summer, and standing right next to Laura Peterson was Mark's brother, Tom, and his wife. They were all smiling, raising beer bottles to the camera. They knew. They all knew. They had stood in my house, eaten my food, smiled in my face, all while knowing their brother, their friend, was betraying me in the most fundamental way imaginable. The rage was now mixed with a profound, soul-crushing loneliness. I was completely and utterly alone in my own life. Who could I even call? My friends would be horrified, but they couldn't give me answers. My family was 1,000 miles away. I needed to know how deep this went. I needed to hear it from one of them. My finger, moving as if it had a will of its own, found Tom's number in my contacts. I pressed call before I could talk myself out of it. He answered on the second ring, his voice cheerful. "Hey, Sarah, what's up?" The casual warmth in his voice was like a physical blow. "Tom," I said, my own voice a stranger's, flat and dead. "Mark's gone." There was a pause. "Gone? What do you mean, gone? Like, to work?" "No, Tom, gone. He packed his bags. He cleared out our bank accounts. All of it. He's gone." I let the words hang in the air, heavy and poisonous. The silence on the other end of the line was different this time. It wasn't confusion. It was the sound of a man caught. "Oh," he finally said, the single word dripping with guilt. "Oh, Sarah, I'm so sorry." "Don't be sorry," I spat, the anger bubbling up again. "Just tell me one thing." He left a receipt here, from an IVF clinic, for someone named Laura Peterson. "Who is she, Tom? Who the hell is Laura Peterson?" Another long, agonizing silence stretched between us. I could hear him take a deep, shaky breath, as if bracing himself. "Sarah," he started, his voice low and strained, I don't know how to tell you this." "Just say it," I screamed, the last of my composure shattering. "Sarah," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Peterson. Peterson is my wife's maiden name. Her first name is Laura." The phone dropped from my hand, clattering against the hardwood floor. Laura. His wife's name was Amanda. I'd known her for 7 years. I was a bridesmaid at their wedding. Laura Peterson was her maiden name. The world tilted on its axis, the pieces clicking into place with a horrifying, sickening finality. Tom's wife was Amanda Peterson. Laura must be her sister. I had met her once, maybe twice, years ago at family gatherings. A quiet, mousy woman I barely remembered. My husband had drained our life savings to have a baby with his sister-in-law. The betrayal was no longer just about me and Mark. It was a sprawling, incestuous conspiracy. Tom's feigned shock, his pitiful, "I'm so sorry," was a lie painted on top of a bigger, uglier lie. He hadn't just known. He was family. He was complicit. That realization changed everything. The grief and shock that had paralyzed me receded, replaced by a cold, sharp clarity. They thought I would crumble. They thought I would curl up into a ball and disappear, leaving them to their disgusting, twisted little happily ever after. They underestimated me. I spent the next 2 days in a blur of methodical fury. I didn't cry, I didn't sleep. I drank black coffee and made lists. First, I went to the police. The officer was sympathetic but blunt. Since we were married and on a joint account, it wasn't technically theft. It was a civil matter. But he did take a report, which was a start. Next, I called every single credit card company, canceled our joint cards, and reported my personal cards as stolen, just in case Mark had their numbers memorized. Then, I did what they never would have expected. I found the best, most ruthless divorce lawyer in the state. Her name was Victoria Sterling, and she had a reputation for being a shark. I walked into her office with my police report, bank statements showing the transfers, and the IVF clinic receipt. I laid it all out on her polished mahogany desk. When I got to the part about Laura being his sister-in-law, Victoria's perfectly sculpted eyebrow raised a fraction of an inch. A slow, predatory smile spread across her face. "Oh, honey," she said, her voice like velvet-wrapped steel. "We're going to destroy them." My plan wasn't just to divorce him. It was to expose him. All of them. Tom and Amanda were well respected in their community. He was a partner at a local accounting firm. She was on the board of a prominent children's charity. Their picture-perfect life was built on a foundation of lies. I was going to burn it to the ground. The first step was a forensic accountant Victoria hired. He traced the money. Mark and Laura hadn't been clever. They had moved the money to a new joint account under their names and immediately started spending it. A down payment on a 2-bedroom condo in a neighboring state. New furniture. A brand new SUV. They were building a nest, feathered with my future. Armed with this information, Victoria filed for an emergency court order to freeze their assets. The motion cited dissipation of marital assets and adultery, with a pointed reference to the unusual family relationship. We won. Suddenly, their new debit card stopped working. The check for the furniture bounced, their new life ground to a screeching halt. The real bombshell, however, was social. I took the photos from Laura's Facebook page, the ones with Mark, the ones with Tom and Amanda, and I sent them in a single, carefully worded email. The recipient list was extensive. The partners at Tom's accounting firm, the entire board of Amanda's charity, their parents, their neighbors, and every single mutual friend we had. The subject line was simple, just so you know who you're dealing with. I attached the bank statements and the IVF receipt for good measure. Then I blocked every single one of them and turned off my phone. The fallout was nuclear. Within a week, Tom was asked to take a leave of absence from his firm. Amanda was forced to resign from her charity board amidst the scandal. Their carefully constructed world crumbled. I heard through the grapevine that their parents were horrified, that their friend circle had imploded, and that Mark and Laura were trapped in a half-furnished condo with no money and the collective scorn of everyone they knew. Mark finally tried to contact me, leaving a rambling, pathetic voicemail. He didn't apologize for what he did, only for how I found out. He tried to justify it, talking about his deep connection with Laura and his overwhelming desire for a family, as if that made any of it okay. He begged me to unfreeze the account, whining about their bills. I deleted the message without a second thought. In the divorce settlement, I got everything. The judge was appalled by their actions. I got the full value of the savings and checking accounts, plus punitive damages. He had to sell the new condo and the SUV to pay me back. I stayed in our apartment, changing the locks and slowly, methodically erasing every trace of him. It took time, but I rebuilt. I started over. I got a promotion at work, reconnected with friends I'd neglected, and even started dating again. Sometimes I think about them. I imagine them stuck together, not out of love, but because they torched every other bridge they had. Their dream of a perfect family, funded by my stolen money, had turned into a prison of their own making. They didn't just take my money and leave while I was sleeping. They woke up a woman they never knew existed, and she made sure they'd never rest peacefully again.